Yeah.
Good evening, councillors, Lisa. Members of the public are conspicuous in their absence. They've probably looked at the agenda. I'm sure this meeting will be over in the blink of an eye. But first, apologies for absence from the Mayor, Mr. Clark, Councillors Fuller and Davis. The Mayor is in Kenya. I'm sure Councillors Fuller and Davis are. We accept those apologies?
I did speak to Councillor Davis. He's well, very quickly.
Excellent.
He's happy.
Pleased to hear it. There are no representations from interested parties, so on to declarations of interest. Any disclosable pecuniary interests, which might be pretty tricky given the agenda. Any other interests? That brings us on to the minutes of the meeting that was held on the 24th of September. I was actually in Poland. Councillor Shura chaired the meeting in my absence. The minutes of it have been circulated. I've got 4 people who were present there, 2 are present now, Councillors Shura and Chester. Are you happy with these minutes?
Yep.
Good.
Indeed.
Then I shall sign them. Right. And that brings us on to our first application.
There's David's.
This is a tree to 17 Norton Road. There is an application because it is in the conservation area. So it, in fact, it's them, not it. Because there are some 9 lime trees and 1 sycamore tree. The plan being to pollard all of them back to historic pollard points. And beyond the location plan here on the screen, there is no information over and above the application, but what is described appears to be tree husbandry. And on the basis that it is our normal policy would not be to object to that, and indeed, as it's merely trees in a conservation area, realistically, it's either say nothing or suggest that one or more of the trees should become a protected tree. I'm struggling slightly. Councillor Shura.
2 observations. One is the lack of information in the application itself. We would normally expect photographs of the trees in question. But, sorry, could you just go back to where you were? So, probably my larger concern is that I think we know that these trees are actually an avenue of trees that go all the way. It just seems a little odd to me that I think it's actually 9 trees in the middle of what is a avenue of trees going all the way from the corner of the road down to number 15. They're going to look very odd.
Yes,
If they're done in isolation.
there must be a rationale behind it.
Well, so
As you rightly point out, the problem is, and we have long bemoaned applications concerning trees, that frequently you get little or no information about the application itself and the bit of the application plan. Photographs are useful and are sometimes provided. We will see later on tonight instances where photographs have been provided, but by and large, there's no requirement from NNC for an applicant to provide photographs, or indeed frankly, provide any more on the most basic of information. I'm sure we could make an observation.
There's been quite a few where you've asked me to actually make that observation to this new tree officer. And I have said to her on several occasions, we don't get any information, we don't get any pictures, we just don't. There's just no information, but she's never come back to me, and subsequent applications have not been supported by any more.
No, and I suspect, but I don't know, that that's possibly because the planning authority may have no jurisdiction, as it were, to require them to provide it. It would surprise me if that was so. You'd think they could probably make it a requirement. But that is, as Councillor Shearer points out, slightly mystifying as to why those particular, it is in fact 9 limes and 1 sycamore. Why it's them is food. Realistically, all we'll probably do is comment. Councillor Chester.
I mean, there's nothing to even say, we want to let the light in, or there's nothing, is there, in the way of information?
The only thing you could call information is the fact that it is described as pollarding back to the historic pollard. No, it's been done once before, we don't know when. We want to take it back to where it was done once before. But we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really rather frustrating, particularly in the circumstances of this case. But so I think all we can actually do is make an observation.
So I'm trying to remember whether it's historically always been done by highways or something, and therefore are being now being neglected because we've got a different lot of people.
I would have thought that's the private driveway, isn't it?
You think it's a private drive?
Yeah, I think that's why they're having their own section done. I mean, truth be known, you'll probably get 15 and then number 19 at some point apply themselves as well.
Right.
And if you remember, we had no objection when on this side, you remember this person here, this side wanted all of these taken out. That was the boundary with the common room.
Yeah.
So it's obviously, they're obviously really fast growing, which we know limes are, aren't they?
Yeah. The very big trees. Yeah. I think it's just about them.
It possibly is a light issue, but I think they should have maybe made
But they
that.
have said that.
Pollarding is actually for the betterment of the trees, but again, they may have made that clear. But as I say, the trees are not in isolation, they are part of an avenue.
Yeah. Now we,
Well, I suppose one could say that the avenue as a whole, we would suggest should be subject to tree preservation order for each tree in it.
The problem is because
But
they're on private land, it's the two owners, the other side say, well, actually, no, we want them like this.
it's ultimately a matter of the planning authorities whether or not to make TPOs, but I have to say I'd be a bit surprised if they did.
There's probably, if it's pollarding, they're just cutting the tops off to try and find the tops out. It might be then you're right, depending on the height of the trees. Google Earth.
You can see the avenue
Yeah.
trees,
well, it would, and if they're not wanting to do number 9, that's going to look a bit odd, isn't it?
If you look though, they look like they've been done at different levels now. Well, that might not be a recent Google Earth anyway, but if you look at these ones here at the bottom, they look well less bushy to those.
that's true.
So I think they've probably all done their own thing in terms of pollarding each time.
What's our interest in making sure, or wanting to be sure that all the trees are done at the same time to the same level?
I mean, it's purely an aesthetic point, isn't it? Realistic.
It's in the conservation area. If it were not in the conservation area, I wouldn't even think twice.
Well, if it wasn't in the conservation area, it would just subject to TPOs, then it would be anyway, just do it.
It's the kind of thing that if they did pollarding, it was, for any reason, it shouldn't have been done.
It will. In a period of time. Well, there are two options realistically, I suppose. One is to restrict ourselves to a comment, and the other would be to actually express a view that that's a significant avenue of trees within the conservation area, and we would like the tree officer to take a view as to whether the avenue should be protected by each tree in it being cut. I think I know what, at least if you're flagged it.
I think as long as we flag it, that's what we can do.
Okay, well, let's make that observation and just see what transpires. Now, by way of change, application number 2 involves, would you believe, trees? In fact, it doesn't involve trees, it involves trees singular. This one is subject to TBO. It's not. This time, the idea to reduce by 4 metres, what you can think about it, is a fairly long size, hence what we're saying about lime trees generally, to quote unquote appropriate growth point below area of decay. Now, I flagged the fact that who the applicants were in some of these, because the previous one was Mr. Bennett, who is a tree person. This is James Rowett. He has supplied, and the narrative in the top right explains that the plan is where you can see that white line crossing the tree. That's where it would be cut off.
Yeah.
And the suggestion is that about 2.5 metres from the crown, the top of the tree, there are 2 areas of decay. So taking it down there removes the areas of decay. I suspect that our view will be that realistically, the tree officer is the expert. He will either agree with Mr. Waller that that is an appropriate way of dealing with the issues affecting that tree, assuming he agrees there are issues affecting the tree, or he's not going to agree with it, in which case one anticipates the application will be refused. And what we therefore tend to say in these ones is that we would have an objection subject to any contrary view of the tree officer.
Agreed.
No, agreed.
Which moves us on a little bit to application number 3, trees. This time in West Street, particularly. Again, before us, because this is in the conservation area. So this, it's these, and there's a whole raft of Novia, prunus, pineapple trees, cypressus. Again, it's an application put in by James Rowett. But the application, as it were, sets out the works that are listed, but gives no further information about it at all. And whilst there's a location plan, which shows the location of the various trees, there are no photographs.
This is York House. isn't it?
That is your house.
Yeah.
You walk down West Street, you
Yeah.
see where T1 and T2
Yeah.
are.
Yes. York House has had an awful lot of work undertaken there since the Butlers moved away and the new owners took it on. And I think this could well be that. In one kind that we've seen the property.
Yeah.
Now, again, I remind councillors that because it is trees in a conservation area, in essence, if we have a concern that a particular tree requires protecting from what is proposed, all we can do is invite the planning authority to consider whether a tree is worthy of listing. Now, I can't believe any of the apple trees, for example, could conceivably be considered that. But there are 3 others. And to the extent that they are visible from the street, that is one of the reasons that sometimes can be put forward to say, look, this is a significant tree or group of trees or what have you. But it's realistically only the tops of the trees that you can see. It's not like the whole tree is visible from the street.
T1 and T2.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm trying practically to remember.
So on this, the houses, you've got a massive magnolia,
Yeah.
which is putting the whole thing in shadow.
Oh, of course, that's the one.
Yeah.
Two at the front, yeah.
Yeah.
The magnolia.
I was thinking that they will.
No.
Magnolia is, they're both animal princes.
Oh.
Yes.
So they're massive, aren't they?
So they are
So,
very much, yes, sorry, I'm
Trying to find a street.
I was on point.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, those two trees are very much part of the streets.
They've done a lot of work to clear what was a mess in that front garden, planted it, but nothing's going to grow on magnolias as big as it is.
No. Now, I seem to recall
There you go.
that,
You can put the little man in, and that'll give us a street view.
There's the
I
magnolia.
keep forgetting.
Driven dry.
And it is very much part of the sheep street scene.
Yeah.
Glorious in the summer.
yes,
So I,
They also, the one next to it against the wall, which in some respects is disturbing the magnolia or the other way around, is also on their listing.
yes, it is, yes. Yes, it's the top 2 on the list of the trees, actually the 2 in the front. I got so taken with the idea that they were all at the back. That's also an awful.
it's got a lot of light getting into the house.
Yeah.
It does. I've been in that.
I'm surprised the neighbour this side wasn't complaining either, because if you think about the roots of that, what they might be doing to their wall
Absolutely.
and damp.
Well, I presume because it's been there for a long time, they must have chemicals.
Yeah.
I mean, we may want to look at those separately, because we may have differing views. I'm not sure, I guess in great times, that they're that worried about and that we don't the suggestion of reducing the crane meter and thin. Now, in terms of the magnolia, all that is being suggested is that it is reduced by 1.5 metres. So, yes, it will possibly assist the light to the front. I think we'd have had a totally different view where somebody suggesting it was taken out altogether. But if we think that it's a very significant tree, I suppose we could say that consideration should be given to listing it because that tree is so integral to the street scene as the street.
From my point of view, I have a problem with it to be removed, but I see very little reason to object to it being thin, both trees being reduced in size and thin. B, they're trying to get the garden greenery underneath it before it was just a mess. we should be supportive of that, because I think it will enhance the streets.
And I think you're right, and I think that actually taking them in hand is a good idea. But the question arises as to whether, I think whereas a rider to make an observation about the magnolia tree. I can say that it was right for tree officer to consider whether it should be listed because of its importance to the streets in Westfield.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's come to no objection, but. Application number 4,
The other two,
what about
the
the,
other two.
I was kind of assuming that because it is simply tree husbandry, where they are, likely to be asking for any of those particular trees to be listed, that we would have no comment, and if I've over presumed, I apologise for. No. Okay, so specific comments, as it were, to general objection to the remainder.
I think if I was having people in to my garden, I would want all the jobs done at the same time. I'd see the list.
I think a tree surgeon might think that too.
Yeah. Right, trees. This is land adjacent to 10 New Valley Business Park. And these trees are subject to a TPO. Yet again, vines, yet again, sycamores. What is interesting with this one is that we have a photograph. And what the applicant says is that these 4 trees are encroaching within the safe working area of the site frame and obscuring lighting. So they need to be reduced to provide access clearance for the frame with selective low branch removal to clear the lighting columns. It's a TPO. Obviously fairly significant trees.
It's a health and safety issue here, isn't it?
Yes, it's man butting up against nature here because it is business objectives. And the crane probably came after the trees. But
Am I right in thinking the red lines signify where they're proposing to take the growth down to?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I'm working on that assumption. It's not the clearest, I have to say.
It's not much in relation to the overall tree. The chances are it's going to grow back in a couple of years.
It's 13 feet, which is quite a lot. Trees are 60, 70 feet tall. So
On a previous tree subject to TPO, we said no objections, subject to any contrary view from the tree officer. Does that sound like an appropriate way of looking at that as well?
I think
He's better poised to judge than us, but I can see why they want to do it.
sycamores are just weeds anyway.
That's my view.
Well, seeds, yeah, the seeds might.
It's rather grow like weeds.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's not get into the merits or otherwise of sycamore. We've set out various other applications which have been listed for information only. It's interesting that Free Road 1 is dealt with in that way. Because it's conversion of a garage.
This one,
It's conversion of a garage
yes.
into, as it puts it here, home office, gym and playroom, which suggests a relatively substantial garage if we're going to get that much into it. with loft storage, and then it describes, in a sense, what works would then be involved in all that. On the basis that it is effectively on here for information only, I'm not sure whether we can do a great deal. But I always worry about versions of garages and that development.
It's dense, isn't it?
It is a very dense development. There's not a lot of parking. And if parking is displaced
Is it
onto the road,
Is
it's about years.
it the,
Probably the garage at the back, isn't it?
That's 142,
But
140, so it's this one.
my understanding is that it doesn't require planning permission per se.
146, that one there. On the end,
Yes, so,
6, 44 there. That
So
one,
the garage at the side.
yeah.
and it's described as conversional garage into, not garages full.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it seems to have a twin garage with, what from the look of it, is parking for 2 vehicles in front of it. Presumably, we'd end up with parking for 2 vehicles in front of it still.
Which is what they've got.
Presumably,
on the very narrow,
possibility of that. But you're right, I mean, it is what it is, but I don't know whether it doesn't say a great deal.
it's, yeah.
I think all we can say is it's noted. And then, because they're not changing, what they're doing is taking the garage doors off and putting a wall along the bottom with windows at the top. All the rest of the work is internal.
Yeah, and it's not the construction or the subsequent appearance or any of it that would cause me the slightest concern. It's purely the fact that we might be losing parking. Now, what we don't know is that the nature of these things is how many bedrooms the property has. Because of course highways have this set of rules, if you like, that says if you've got X number of bedrooms, you need Y number of parking spaces, but there's no way to tell.
But they're not changing the existing car parking.
Well, it might.
Well, they go everywhere.
Because a double garage counts as a space, but a single garage doesn't under the parking standards that NNC have.
Yeah.
So in practical terms, it is a reduction from 3 to 2. Maybe we take a view that 2 is sufficient anyway.
The number of bedrooms, so require 3 spaces.
And it doesn't look no to be and it's not an extra bedroom, it's all these other things and locals. Nothing stops it becoming a bedroom.
According to the public record, it's got 1,200 feet of internal space, it's on 180 metres square plots, 3 bedrooms.
In which case, I don't think that the loss of the parking space would cause highways to have an issue.
No,
3 bedrooms supposed to have 2 parking spaces,
Exactly.
isn't it?
Which is what it's got.
Well, basically, it's got 2
Yeah.
off-road spaces left legal side.
Yeah.
I think, I'm sure you're probably right, it's just indicate that we noted it. We then have, for information, the Outward Schools redeveloped to the old primary school site, and you notice that they're raising issues around specific conditions, and I think that's a matter between the applicant and the planning authority. We noted, but of discussion. And then 2 connected with 8 West Street, which is merely, I think, indicating that certain works have now been carried out there pursuant to the planning permissions that we've already seen. So again, it's purely there for information purposes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if anybody has anything to say about any of those matters, the various planning applications determined by NMC is set out. And everything that was there was granted. And there are no objections from us. Planning appeals there, which brings us already to any other relevant matters for report. Councillor White. Councillor Chester.
No.
Councillor Shaw. The only thing I've mentioned is that we've sent various letters out to various people in connection with conservation area, in connection with neighbourhood plans, etc. So far as I'm aware, we've had no responses to anything as yet. So whether there'll be anything further to report at our next meeting or before that at full council remains to be seen. But on that basis, unless Lisa has anything, and having managed to do it in 30 minutes, which I think has knocked a few minutes off last month's, I declare the meeting closed and thank you for coming, despite the injury.